Welcome back to the show. I am very excited to have my guest today, Pamela Ellis. She is also known as the Education Doctor, and she is the author of a book called What to Know Before They Go. So if you have a child that is in high school thinking about going to college, or you already have a child that you just sent off to college, this is the show for you because moms, we know there is so much to think about when it comes to letting your child go off to college. And so, being a mom that has recently done this and is about to do it again, I am ready for all of Pamela's information and inspiration. So, welcome so much to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to sharing with all the moms who are listening.
Well, I think, first of all, it's amazing that this is the work that you do, because when I sent my firstborn to school 2.5 years ago, I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. I didn't know what I was doing. And even though I had gone away to college, it's different as a mom, and so much had changed, and it was very overwhelming. And so I want you to really help the moms listening break this down, so that we can feel like we know how to approach it. So let's start out with the moms that are listening that maybe have a child that's a sophomore or a junior in high school. What are some of the things they can do now to prepare their child? Number one, get them thinking about this journey and where they're going to go. And number two, what can they do as parents to prepare themselves?
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes. And actually, Jennifer, I want to take it back to those who even have ninth graders, because the whole college process starts, in ninth grade. And there's so much that we as moms are already thinking about even before they get to high school. But for those that do have a high schooler, I think, one of the key ways to prepare is to start to let the child own the process. And I know that may be hard, because we sometimes may see our kid as, they're disorganized, they're always late, and they procrastinate, all of those things that we see them doing, and we're just kind of getting antsy about. But I think a really great start is letting them own it. And one of the ways to do that is starting with even some simple assessments and interest inventories, so that they get a chance to get to know themselves and to think about what things they want to do, as opposed to being hyper focused on, I want to get into X college, because that puts the emphasis on the college and not the student. And so really stepping back and letting them own that process, I think, is a very important step, because it also then takes the onus off us as moms to do it for them. And when they have that buy-in and own it, boy, does that make a difference in terms of just their excitement for it. And having what I refer to in the beginning as a why. Why is it that you want to go? A lot of times, I see kids, and, when I ask them their why, they don't really know just yet, because they're just thinking, wow, I just, it's because my parents always said I was going to go. And it's like, no, that's not enough to get you excited about this and to own it. And so I think that that's a beautiful first start, because it also helps us to let go and learn how to let go. Because if we can start to let go in that way, with letting them own the process, that goes a long way for when they finally do go away to college.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's interesting that you said to start with their interests, because a lot of times I do hear kids more focused on the college, the name, the city, where their friends go, what's posted on social media. But you can have, the most famous college name in the world, but that atmosphere might not be the correct atmosphere for the child.
Right, exactly.
And we all know that many college kids go away and then they don't finish the first semester, or they come home after the first semester. So it's really important to look at their personality and what will be a good fit for them. What's,
Yeah.
18 years old they're just so young to make a decision on a degree that they will be studying for 4 years and potentially be part of their entire career. What do you tell parents and kids about making that decision on what, to study at school and what direction to go in to begin with?
I think it goes back to starting with those assessments and interest inventories around what it is they like. And one of the things that we do with, all of our kids, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, is we actually curate a list of summer programs for them, because some kids will come in, 9th or 10th grade, and what they know is they know what mom or dad does. And so they say that's what they want to do. But when we do those assessments and interest inventories, we find they have strengths in other areas, and then give them that chance to explore it in a summer experience. And they find out, wow, I don't like this at all. I like X. And it's like, something that's great. And then as we are, talking about their list and their colleges, there are colleges that, can meet almost every need. And because we are starting with the student first, as opposed to the college, if it's the case that they really are undecided, then, there are colleges that are great for undecided students. And so that's, part of that conversation. And the thing that I want the students to know, and the parents, is that they're not locked in. And for, a number of colleges that could be a great fit for them, they're not locked in. They're not locked in. And so, yes, it's a big decision to make at 18, but there's still flexibility in that decision. And when you have owned the process, and you have some buy-in to it, and you've been part of making that decision, you can rest in that better.
Right.
The student can, and their mom.
Right. So, and I know that, Pamela, you've worked with hundreds of students and young people, helping them decide. And I know one of the things that you also do is you help them not only find the best fit for them, but also how to save the parents time and money. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the top ways that you can help parents save money?
Oh, absolutely. One of the key things is, really looking at the fit, as opposed to looking at just what the brand name is and trying to force the teen into, a college that is not going to be a fit. Because one of the things we have learned over the years is when it's a fit, that's when they are more likely to get scholarships. That's when they're more likely to thrive and to complete, as opposed to dropping out, like you had mentioned earlier before. Another thing is, letting parents, be aware that there's scholarships that are available as early as age 13. And so many times, I'll get a call from a mom in senior year, like, oh my God, college is going to cost so much. Where do we get scholarships? And this, it's like, at that point, the biggest dollars are going to come from the colleges, from the list. And, the external scholarships, they're out there, and they start, really early. And so you don't have to wait for those. And the things that you're doing 9th, 10th, 11th grade are positioning you for those big dollars from the colleges that are a fit for you. And so it's a mindset shift, I think, Jennifer, that really saves them time, saves them money, is, that mindset shift that starts a little bit earlier on, and that snowballs.
Yeah. I would also say, just from my own experiences, 2 points I want to make about money is, number one, you can always ask for more. It doesn't hurt.
Absolutely.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that, but there have been bigger scholarships given simply because the student has asked for it. Also, when it comes to anybody that has a child who wants to play a sport in college. I will say from going through this, for both my kids have gotten scholarships, but my son in particular, when he was younger, he used to, not really put as much emphasis on academics because he knew he wanted to play baseball in college. But we were constantly telling him that in order to play baseball in college, you need to have really good grades and take your academics seriously, because nowadays there's plenty of, college athletes that have good grades. What I've known now is that that's a big part of the scholarship. You can only get so much money for athletics, and you need to have your grades in order to get any academic scholarship. But again, even when you're offered an athletic scholarship, you can still ask for more. You don't always have to take the first offer. So I really want to just let the parents know that, to push your kids to be an advocate for themselves, and never hurts to ask.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's much of what we're doing with our seniors in the spring is, how do you appeal those awards? And I think it's important, as part of that appeal, that ask for more, is that you have other options. Because if you don't have other options, you're not really in a position to ask for more. And the other big thing that, a lot of times parents do not know is that early decision has a financial implication. And a lot of times, there's confusion around early action and early decision. But what early decision means is that your child will go to that college regardless of financial aid. And that regardless of financial aid can have some consequences. For all of the students, that I've worked with who have applied early decision, they are paying in full.
They are what?
Paying in full.
Okay,
Their families are paying in full.
Is there any benefits, Pamela, of early decision?
Yes, a benefit of early decision is that there's a higher admissions rate than it would be if you apply it later in the regular round. And so we have this conversation every year as parents are thinking about, their options for their child. And it's definitely a difference. So in some cases, it could be, maybe as much as, 10 or 15 points difference in terms of the admissions rate if you apply early decision versus regular.
Okay. And basically what you're saying is that the school may not offer you as much financial aid if you commit for early decision. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because the fine print says that if you're admitted early decision, you'll go regardless of financial aid, which is why parents have to sign off when their student is applying early decision so that they understand that.
What if, you're just in a situation where you're probably not going to get much financial aid anyways? Then do you feel like it's as important, or to just not let that deter you
from applying early decision?
Yeah.
Something that really comes down to being a family decision. And I really can't speak to that. I did have a mom mention that to me. She has a junior right now, and he really wants to go to this college. And so she was like, well, we're not going to get anything anyway, so we could just apply early decision. I really do question that, because I have seen families, who on paper make a lot of money and would not qualify for need-based, but they still do get scholarships. And I see it every year, which is why, we focus so heavily on the list, because most of our families that we work with don't qualify for need-based aid, but they can get money from the colleges, even if they do have a higher income. And I think with early decision, you're showing your hand, so to speak, because you're saying you're going to come anyway. So they don't have to offer anything. But for those students that they want, they still offer monies to them, even if their family does not qualify. I see it every year. One of my dads, just a quick story, he and his wife both were physicians at the time. And he was like, Dr. Pamela, I just don't know about this, filling out all these forms. So
Yes.
he filled out FAFSA. He did do CSS profile. And his, daughter, a lot of the colleges that we looked at for her, had equestrian because she was interested in doing that during college. And it turns out that the college that she really wanted to go to, they offered her a lot of scholarship, even though dad had filled out these forms. But get this, the other thing they did, they gave them an additional 12,000 because he filled out FAFSA. This
Wow.
is a physician. His wife is a physician. What? You know,
Yeah.
but that, 30 minutes of his time, 45 minutes of his time to fill out that form was $12,000.
Yeah.
And so they knew, what they earned. And they still offered her scholarships anyway, and then kicked in the additional 12.
Right. Wow, that's awesome. So one of the things as a parent that has been frustrating, so I want to see what your advice is for people so they don't go through this, is when, I feel like with my daughter, you send them off to college and then they're dealing with the guidance counselor by themselves, where during high school, the parents are pretty involved. So I think that a lot of times, a college, it's a business and they want to make money. And now they bring in this young adult and they're having a conversation about majors and minors and what to take. And it seems like if you're not careful, it can take you longer than you plan because of a lot of different factors, one of which could be classes aren't available, when you need them. But what advice can we give our children on how to kind of approach these counselors in a way where they know they're not getting the runaround and they're not going to spend more time and more money in college than they need to? Does that make sense?
Oh, kind of, sort of. Let me think about that for a moment. I, yeah, I mean, I just, believe that they do have good intention in terms of, the counseling that they're getting at school. I think it gets back to self-advocacy, and teaching our kids to be self-advocates because, once they're in college, they really, all the information goes to them, financial aid information goes to them, grades, everything else. And I think that we still, have influence as, their mom. We still have influence and can have those conversations. I mean, I don't know if it's true for your daughter, but for my daughter, she's pretty indecisive. She is pretty indecisive. And so we talk a lot about majors all the time. And so, I mean, I just feel like, I have to trust that she's going to self-advocate. And I know that she respects my input and opinions about, course taking and everything else. But we have, talked about, college being 4 years. And so she, pretty much has worked out all of her study abroads and everything else so that she still graduates in 4. And so I just think that we have to trust them and also still guide them so that, they don't end up spending more time than
I think it's
necessary.
really important that the student understands the curriculum for each major because there can be variances that are very slim. I know my daughter's pre-med and she started out as biology. For a semester she went to allied health and science because there was classes that were more interesting to her, but in the end she should have stayed with biology if she was going to be pre-med. Luckily that didn't put her back too far, but I think that you have to really look at all of the classes that are going to be part of your major to see if they interest you. My son, he is not into math. He's just not interested in the subject of math. So when he's picking a major, I'm always reminding him, well, that one might have a lot of math classes. So if it's something you're not interested in, be careful how you decide. I want to back up for a
Absolutely.
second, just as a
Mhm.
side note, because I feel like there might be some people listening that are like, what the heck is a FAFSA form? Because if
Oh,
you don't already have a child in college, then you wouldn't necessarily know what it is. I know I didn't before. I had to start filling them out for college, and then when my son transferred to private school. But it's basically, just give us the overview so that everybody listening understands.
oh, absolutely. I'll start with what the acronym stands for, and I think that'll help everyone. So it's the free application for federal student aid. And so it's a form that's completed in senior year to qualify for any federal funds that may be available. And all of the colleges will accept and require a FAFSA form as part of the consideration for financial aid in college.
Okay. Just so they understand. And I noticed that even though, even if you don't necessarily get any financial aid, there are some things that pop up that if you hadn't filled out that form, your child wouldn't get. And I know for us, it was during COVID that they sent like a small COVID relief payment, but it would not be given to any students that did not have that form filled out.
That's a great point, Jennifer, because one of the reasons that I counsel my families to all complete the FAFSA, even if, they feel like they're not going to qualify, which, like the physician that I mentioned, he didn't qualify for any federal monies, but he got monies from the college. So if you don't fill it out when your student is going to be a freshman, some colleges lock you out from being able to complete it while they're in college. And so I see it as almost like insurance, if you will, such that if something happens during those 4 years that they're in college and you want to apply for financial aid, you can still be able to do that if you've applied for freshman year. And
Yeah.
so it's just to ensure that you can, if you need to later.
Yeah. That's really good. So I was mentioning to you before we started the show that I have an episode coming out right around the time of this one, and it's with my daughter talking about the benefits of going away to college and what she's learned about herself and why, actually going away, what has done for her. And you mentioned a really interesting fact that you've seen some research specifically with girls going away to college. Can you talk about that a little bit, Pamela?
Oh, absolutely. So the research shows that when girls go further away from home for college, they're more likely to thrive than if they stay close to home or in some cases, like commuting.
Mhm.
And so that's some research that was done many years ago. And, certainly I've found it, to be true in just in terms of the experiences that I've seen with girls that I've worked with. But that's what it's shown in terms of their connections and relationships that they build. And so much of freshman year is about that social transition. And I know for sure that, when students are commuting or they're close to home, they're less likely to establish those strong relationships. And so that's, what was borne out in that research.
That's very interesting. I see how that can be true, especially because college is a lot of change and change isn't always comfortable. So if you're commuting, it's more comfortable to kind of go home on the weekend, hang out with your friends from high school or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and you don't have to put yourself out there as much as when you live away on campus and the weekend comes and you're, having to hang out with strangers. And what's interesting is, as a parent, I would definitely remind your kids that it is a change, but everybody's going through it at the same time, and it's totally normal. And you're not going to be, Miss Popular or Mr. Popular the first week of college. Like, it takes time to make friends. And we talk about that, I talked about that on the show with my daughter of just her first few days of kind of like panicking, like, who are we going to hang out with? And, a few weeks into school, you start to get into a new groove and you're so excited to meet the new people that are coming into your life. And that's what helps you form those relationships. So I can see how girls going away can also, I feel like when you get to college, you can be your true self. You don't have to be who you were in high school. You can change. And maybe you got into a group there. And this is a great, point to tell our kids. Sometimes when you're in a school for many, many years, you kind of chameleon to the people around you. And when you go to school, or go to college, you have a fresh start and you decide who you want to be and who you want to hang out with. And so I think that's really empowering. So
Absolutely.
your book, What to Know Before They Go, what else in the book is something that is really important for parents to know?
The most important thing would be the factors of fit that I talk about in the book. The book is meant to be a roadmap that goes through year by year what to do in terms of supporting your teen with getting ready for college. And in the book, I talk about those factors of fit, because we hear, a college should be a good fit, but we don't really know how to actualize it. And so those factors are academic, social, financial, vocational, and cultural fit. And so it's really important to think about how those relate to your child, and then look at what the colleges have to offer that would support them in thriving along those lines of fit.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes kids feel like they want to go to a certain kind of college. Like, for example, maybe they want to go to a really big university, but yet in the classroom, they need a smaller atmosphere. So there's ways you have to consider, like, how does your child socialize? How does your child learn? Will there be enough help? Will your child get lost in the shuffle, or will, they be able to, because you don't want them to get frustrated and want to give up, even when it's challenging,
Yeah, that's right.
I think that everybody that has a kid that is going to go to college needs to get a copy of this book. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I was a mom that was searching for more guidance and more help at that, junior year, sophomore year. And I feel like sometimes, I honestly think the most help I got was from other moms that had already gone before me. And so I try to make sure that I am giving advice when people ask, or just little tips that you just learn along the way. But there is so much to learn. But I think one thing that helped me a lot was going into the parent groups for the college, because there's so many parent groups now on social media. Once your child decides where they're going, that are like a little internal family. They're all parents in the same boat, and they're so full of information and inspiration, because you'll have the different grade levels, and some parents their kids already graduated from that school. Some are seniors, some are freshmen, but the incoming moms with the incoming freshmen, we are usually the ones asking the most questions. And so I would definitely encourage moms listening to find out, what the name of the group is, get involved, ask the questions, because the moms that went before you have already experienced it, and they were just like you when they started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else that we need to know?
Oh, gosh.
There's so much, but they're going to either need to hire you or buy your book, because we only have 29 minutes.
That's right. So I want them to stay in touch. And we have a college prep toolkit, which is free. And that's a great way for moms to get information around just scholarships that are available, different colleges, and insider information on what things they need to do month by month. And so that's something that we offer, digital scholarship calendar, and a number of things. So just stay in touch.
Yeah. Is it on your website,
can be well
Pamela?
supported. Absolutely,
okay.
It is.
So
absolutely
Pamela's
is.
website, just for everybody listening, and this will be in the show notes, there will be a link, but it's compasscollegeadvisory.com. So write that down. Unless you're driving, wait until you stop. But yes, check out the book again, What to Know Before They Go, and also the website, and you'll get so much valuable information. So I checked it out myself. It was full full of information. So thank you for everything you're doing for the kids that are looking to go to school and to follow their dream of college, and also for those parents that are there to support them do that along the way.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody listening. We'll be back again next week for another episode of the 29 Minute Mom.